Hi Akshat, how are you doing? Hey guys, welcome. Can you guys hear me? So guys, where are you from? I am from Pune, and the reason I'm asking is because the COVID cases and everything are becoming really bad nowadays, especially in Maharashtra. So I mean, I just wanted to know where you guys are from and like how you guys are handling all of this. So yeah, Sridhar, where are you from? Or anybody for that matter. If anybody would like to talk about like where they're from or something, that will be amazing. Oh, cool. दिल्ली तुम्हारे इधर भी काफी बढ़ रहा है ना गोवा भाई आई हैड लाइक माय कॉलेज इज इन गोवा बिट्स गोवा से हूँ तो यार आई रियली मिस गोवा गोवा वाज परफेक्ट हाँ जस्ट आस्किंग डज एनीबडी हियर हैव एनी प्रॉब्लम्स विद हिंदी क्योंकि मैं कभी कभी जब मतलब बात करते करते कभी कभी मेरा हिंदी में थोड़ा शिफ्ट हो जाता है तो अबे हाँ तू तो फर्स्ट ही है ना हाँ राइट वैसे श्रेय you'll get some years there so that's good. I mean you'll at least get 2 years hopefully. Starting now. Cool, guys. So, thanks for joining this. And this is going to be a great journey. I have really put in a lot of time trying to make sure that I'm trying to hit all of the concepts I want to hit in this particular class because it's the first class. And it's really important that you get the concepts right because that is on which everything else will build up eventually. So, that is something I have tried to aim for as much as possible. So this is our first week, and this is what our agenda looks like. So the first thing is we look at it from the perspective of how you would create your own cryptocurrency, in the sense that we'll try to make decisions based on if you were creating your own cryptocurrency, and we'll start from the very basics, ground zero, and then we'll sort of build on that to make decisions to make our own cryptocurrency sort of. We'll also have a visual demo about some of the concepts I'll be talking about. Again, also there will be a lot of theory and there'll be some Q&A at the end of it. Wait, what? Okay. Um, I don't know if somebody, one sec. Recording? Yes, we are. Cool. So now, and at the end of this, we'll do some Q&A. How do you remove this line? For God's sake.
I think there is an option of eraser,
Oh,
where we
God.
have selected. Yeah, great.
Yeah, thanks. So So there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, as we know. Like there is, like as I showed the other day, there are so many cryptocurrencies, right up to the 189th cryptocurrency, which almost has 500 million as its market cap. So how do you differentiate between them? Well, that's because each one of them has a different set of thought processes which went up behind creating it. And the reason we'll start with Bitcoin to understand it is because it's the most simple one, because it was the first one. Now we'll walk through thinking about how we can create our own. We'll go one by one, and we'll understand the decisions which we make every step of the way. So let's get a bit of background. Okay, you and your friends are exchanging money frequently. Like for example, you live with your friends in the hostel or something like that, and there are a lot of expenses which you may have to share. So you and your friends end up settling up on a lot of bills. Like one friend might pay for you, and you might have to pay him back and things like that. So what do? You don't want to settle up in cash every single time. That's because it's tedious, it's time consuming, and that means that you'll have to carry your wallet around everywhere. He also carry it around everywhere. So every time, let's say he pays for McDonald's, then as soon as he pays, you want to pay him back again. But that is inconvenient. So for the sake of all of these examples, we'll use this as our group of people. You'll be one of them. And B is a malicious actor. He's a person who's trying to break the system every time. He's trying to find ways in which the system will not work. He's trying to find loopholes. So we'll see how we can ensure B can't break the system every step of the way. So level one is our problem of inconvenience of settling up after every payment. So what's the solution? The solution is very simple. You can have a notebook or use an app like Splitwise to record everyone's transactions. That way you can just load up all of those transactions in that particular app. And after some time, let's say every week or every month, you can just settle up in one shot. That makes life much easier than settling up every time. So this is how the ledger will look. These are the four people which we have. And on that, we are just recording transactions one at a time. So A is paying B, B is paying C, things like that. Now we are assuming a website or app where you store this ledger, and all four of you can read and write to this ledger. This is important. It's not like only A can write, only B can write. All have read and write access. And settling up will be done at fixed intervals. So this is a list of innovations which I'm writing down, and every step of the way we'll add these as innovations. So the first innovation we've come across is a ledger. So that way we are avoiding the settling up after every transaction. Now we move on to level two. So the problem with this is anybody can write to a ledger, and you can create unapproved transactions, and you want to ensure that somebody like B, who's a malicious actor, does not make transactions which are not approved by the person who is receiving or sending that transaction. I'll tell you what I mean. So every transaction, therefore, will have to be digitally signed by the person who is sending the money. So just as an example, this is our ledger. B is a malicious actor. And let's say that we sign, like when somebody like A is paying B 10 rupees, then we sign it and approve it by A. We just say that A has signed off on that piece of paper, like next to it saying, hey, I have signed. Similarly, B is also signing for every transaction he does. But what about forgery? Now, as we know, B is a guy who's malicious. He is trying to find loopholes to everything. So what if he just does this? He just signs that B has paid C every single time. Now, if somebody like C does not have any idea of what's happening, then it might happen that all of these transactions are fraudulent. Now, what B can do in a case like this is he can create infinite transactions, like A pays B 10 rupees, and he can create 100 of these transactions. Similarly, he can say that you have paid him 1,000 rupees multiple times, but you don't want that happening. So how do you deal with that? That way you can use cryptography. Now, this is where we start getting a bit into the whole crypto part of cryptocurrencies. So you are using cryptography to ensure that a currency is working the way it is intended to. Now, very basic question. How many of you know what a hash function is? Like that way I'll get an idea of how in depth we have to go in this particular topic.
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah.
Are there people who have no clue about what it is? Okay, cool. So there are people who have no idea. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I also know about hash function.
Cool. That's cool. So there are some people who don't have an idea. I'll go into a brief of what it is. So a cryptographic hash function. So we'll go one by one. A function is anything which takes an input and gives an output. That is basic maths. Anything which takes an input and gives an output is a function. Now, a hash function is something which takes a message and gives an output which has a specific property of being a hash, which I'll talk about in the next slide. Where did that go? So a hash function is something which maps anything to 256 bits. For example, if I have a Word document and that Word document is, let's say, 300 bytes, it is still going to find a way to map all of this data into 256 bits. Even if I have, let's say, a movie which is like 4 GB, it is still going to be able to find a way to map all of this into 256 bits. The main advantage of having a hash function which can map any size to 256 bits is that it makes it universal, in the sense that you can use it on any input you get, no matter the size, no matter the format. It can be a .mp4 file, it can be a .pdf. Anything can be mapped using a hash function to 256 bits. And that's great because 256 bits isn't even that big a size. It can be stored very easily on a lot of things. So that is why this is a very desirable hash function. So there are a few properties that make a hash function very desirable, and there are 4 special properties. The first one is being computationally efficient. What does that mean? That means that if I have a function, if I have an input, then I should be able to get the output of it. This is the input. If I have, then I can get the output of it very fast. It should not take too much time to compute it. For an example, I have this. I will have to start sharing on this as well. Yeah. Can you guys see the screen now?
Yes.
Cool. So this is an example of a hash function where you can sort of see how the hash changes. Now, for example, if I type in my name is Athar, you can see that it took almost 0 seconds to compute this. And this is not even on a very high-end computer or whatever. This is just like instantaneously calculating whatever is happening. So if I type I am a boy, you can see that every second I type, it is able to compute it very fast. So that is what I mean by computational efficiency. It should be able to compute the hash function as fast as possible. The second thing is the ability to hide information. So this example is like a fingerprint. If you see a fingerprint of a person, you can't infer who that person was directly by looking at the fingerprint. Now, yes, CID में तुम लोग देखते हो कि that person looks at the fingerprints and does forensic identification, and based on that, they can map who it is to. But that is because you can't do it directly. You have to do a step of analysis to find out who this is owned by. So that is why it is a good hide of information. It is able to mask whatever information was put as the input of the hash function very well. Again, another example here is, for example, if I put this is a course, there is no way looking at this, you can easily infer that this is a course. Now, agreed that there are certain ways in which you can try to guess what this is based on if you have some bounds on what the input is. Like, for example, if you know that this is a 4-letter word and you have to run this among only the alphanumeric words, so you can brute force and find out what this is. But it is computationally inefficient to go the other way around. It is impossible, basically. The third one is the avalanche effect. The avalanche effect is a very fancy term. What it essentially means is, even for a small change in the input, there is a massive change in the output. An example here is, look at the hash here. It starts with 1 EB. Now, if I even put a dot here, it completely changes. Almost every single letter at every single position has changed. That is because it obeys the avalanche ideology, where small inputs create a massive change in the output. And this is important because if there was a very small difference, then you could use pattern recognition to find out what things changed in your input and guess what the input was. And that is exactly what we want to avoid. And finally, not easily reversible. As I said, looking at something like a fingerprint, you cannot directly infer whose fingerprint it was. You have to do forensic analysis. You have to have a database of all of the fingerprints that are available in your particular area or whatever. And then there is still room for error even after doing all of this analysis. There are times when you just can't map a fingerprint backwards because there might be scratches on the fingerprint or whatever. So similarly, if you look at it from an analogical perspective, taking this and going the other way around is extremely hard, to the point where it is almost computationally impossible. So that is a hash function. Okay, does anybody have any doubts till now about what a hash function is?
No, clear.
I have a doubt in avalanche effect. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, so what essentially avalanche effect means is the change, the difference is happening. Yeah. So what avalanche effect essentially means is the difference in the hash function is very high for even a small change in the input. Again, I'll give an example. If I type A, then this is the hash function. But if I just if I just add any other letter to this, if I had AT here, then the size, like the difference in the hash is massive. Even if I replace T with, let's say, U, because T and U are like right next to each other in the alphabet, still the hash has changed completely. Now, what that allows us to do is, there is no way a person can look at this hash of AT and then look at the hash of AU and be like, okay, this person just changed one letter and that's why this hash changed. The change in the hash is so massive that you cannot infer the change in the input from its change. Is that a bit clear?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool. And I think there were some messages in the chat. Does it map the file to a single function or to multiple functions? It doesn't map to a function. It maps to some data. So let's say a good example of a hash function is something like this. You have integers, all integers, like from minus infinity to plus infinity. Now, mathematics people, please don't get into the infinity doesn't exist, whatever. So every single integer can either be called even or odd. Am I right? Even or odd. So that is a very simplistic hash function, in the sense that if I take 0, then that is going to map to even. If I take 1, it is going to map to odd. So that is a way to look at what the function maps to. So it maps to something like, if I say even is 0 and odd is 1, then that is what it maps to. Now, why is this not a good example? Because even -1 and 1 both map to odd. So both map to 1. So that is a bad idea, because it shouldn't map to the same thing again and again. And we'll get to that in the next part. So are there any doubts still? Clear? Okay, cool. That's great. Okay, there's another doubt. So is the avalanche effect along the lines of chaos theory? Yes, it actually is. Good question. And if you want, I will send you a link to what like the avalanche effect does and what chaos theory, like how it plays into this hashing stuff. I'll put it up on Classroom after the class. So yeah, I think we'll move on now. So as we said, cryptography has to be used, and hashing is a one-way function. So as I said, if you look at this, you can't tell that I've typed in AU. Now, what we will do is we will generate a public key and a private key pair, and these are completely randomly generated. And what you will do is, for every single message that you type, now that message can be a transaction key. Hey, A paid B something. That is also a message. Anything, even a file is a message. What you will do is you will use your secret key and you will use your signature function. The signature function is public. Everybody knows it. Secret key is something which nobody knows, only you know. And message is public again. From that, you will create something called a signature. And then you will use a verify function, which is also public. And you will use your private key. You'll use your public key. Now, public key again is known to everyone across the world, and only you know your private key. And then this signature, which came from here, and the message to generate true or false. I know this is a bit too much to handle. I'll explain this to you with another example. So this is how public key and private key pairs are generated. Like we looked at hashing here, what it does is it takes a random private key and it creates a hashed public key from it. So if I enter, let's say 2, then it has generated its public key. Now you can see the private key and the public key are completely unrelated. Now, when we move to checking how this message stuff works, for example, if my message is A paid B 5 rupees and my private key is 1, if I sign it, then this is the message signature which pops up. This message signature took two parameters. It took the secret key, which was 1, private key, secret key, same thing. And it took the message. So A paid B 5 rupees. And it generated something called a signature. So again, you can see this is the massive signature it created. And because it's a hash function, there is no way to find out that this and this is what created this. You can go from top to bottom, but you can't go from bottom to top. And finally, we'll move on to the verify aspect of it. So in the verify part, we can see that this is the same message I had typed, A paid B 5 rupees. This is the public key, which came from here. And this is the signature. So when I hit verify, this pops up as green. That means that it was able to validate that given this particular public key, this particular signature, and this particular message, it evaluated to true. That means that this transaction is valid. Okay. But if I am a person who's malicious and if I want to change it, if I turn this from 5 rupees to 20 rupees, and if I try to verify it now, it evaluates to false. That's because cryptographically these three are linked. And if these three are not in sync, then it will evaluate to false. Okay, now I know that there are going to be doubts. So doubts time. If you want me to say it again, that's also totally good, but tell me.
So basically that signature which will be generated, so that particular signature, the verification will work only if that signature remains the same. So if I said A paid B 10 rupees and I create a signature based upon that, so I cannot create another signature and then verify it. It has to be the same signature, same public key. And so I think, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So what you can do is yes, that is completely correct. For this, given this message, there can only be one signature, public key and message combo which verifies correctly. Now, if you create another message, A paid B 1,000 rupees, and if the person who is signing it signs it like this, then yes, it will verify correctly. But if the person on the verifying end tries to change it, then it won't work correctly. Okay, so there are questions in the chat. Which system evaluates if it's true or false? Every single system which is running this particular function is able to evaluate it. So it does not matter which system it's running on. Every single system which is a part of the blockchain, like you can look at it as every single computer on the blockchain is able to evaluate if it's true or false. Then once more, okay, I will do that. Who generates the secret key? The secret key is generated randomly. That is completely random. So whenever you create your Ethereum wallet with, let's say, Binance or WazirX, what they do is they have a random function generator which generates your secret key. And then based on that secret key and based on this particular function, which is written in the code of blockchain, like whichever blockchain you're using in Bitcoin, Ethereum, the private key is generated, the public key is generated. So private key is generated randomly somewhere on some server, and public key is sort of derived from this private key. Then Sagar asks, then the input needs to be accurate always, right? Yes, the input needs to be accurate completely, to the point where if, for example, if I say A paid B 100, okay, and I sign it. Now in verify, what somebody can do mathematically is, if somebody says 99 plus 1, then also it won't work. Now I know that this is checking strings, but my point is there have been attacks on some blockchains where what somebody did is they signed a message with A paid B 100, and then they reverted that signature, and then they signed it again with 99 plus 1. And if the blockchain is not made properly, then it will consider the two to be the same thing. It will verify it correctly. And then what a person can do is they can spend an infinite amount of money. Like if I have 100 rupees in my bank balance, then I paid B 100. Then I can pay B 99 plus 1. And it will consider all of these are valid. So for that reason, this has to be exactly what happened, like what is there in the verify thing. They have to be exactly equal, right down to the text. Okay, so the changes can be made in verify should be the same to the changes made in sign with the same private key, then the output is true. Yes. Yeah, that is correct. The changes made in verify should be, yes, that is exactly correct. The changes in sign and the changes in verify both have to be the exact same. Otherwise it will not work given that the private key is the same. It can be changed by admin. What can be changed by admin? No, it cannot be changed by admin. So once your private key and public key pair are generated, you cannot change them. The only way you can get a different pair is if you create a different account. Once it is generated, it is generated. It is like written in concrete. You cannot change it. What does it, when does it show false? So I think that will be a part of the once more thing. So I'll just get to that. So essentially what is happening here is you are first creating a private key. You are first creating a private key and you are creating a public key. Why are you creating these two? You are creating these two because you want to validate any transaction which you do. Like I want to, let's say, send 5 rupees to another person. Then I will be the person who uses my secret key and the message that I am paying B 5 rupees, and I will generate a signature. This signature is nothing but some value. Okay. Just that is just a cryptographic value. Just take that light. Now the person on the other end who is verifying that I actually sent him that particular 5 rupees, he will look at my public key because my public key is visible to everybody. He will look at the signature I created and he will look at the message I have created and he will see if the transaction has actually happened or not. So he will see if it is true or if it is false. And this true or false is created by this verify function. It returns a Boolean value. That is all it does. So again, to give an example, I first go here and I create a new account on Binance. Let's say they give me a private key of 1234. This is the public key it generates automatically. I have done nothing but just create my account. So this private key public key pair is mine. Now, if I were to give my private key as this and my message is A paid B 100. So I am A and I'm paying 100 to B. Then I'm going to sign this. And on signing this, it changes the message signature completely. Now this message signature will be used by B to verify if he actually got those 100 rupees or not. And the way he does it is by looking at the message. He looks at the public key. The public key has been generated in the past over here. You can see it's the same, this and this, the public key, and the signature which was generated here. And when he hits verify, then it will come green. But if B is malicious, and what B is trying to do is he is trying to trick me and say that I paid 1000. Then when he tries to verify it, then it will not go through. That way it secures that when I am paying somebody 100 rupees, the person who is receiving only 100 rupees. He's not receiving 1000 rupees, or he's not trying to cheat me out of more money. And this is what the verification part of it does. And this is not just somebody who is verifying, like the receiver who is verifying. Even let's say I go to the court of law, we have a dispute. I say that I paid him 100 rupees. He's saying that I paid him 1000 rupees. Then even the court can look at my message, can look at the public key, can look at the signature, and they can verify this using the same function. And they will be able to tell that this is a false thing. So B is lying and I am the person who's correctly paying 100 rupees. So I hope that clears once more. And when does it show false? Binance or WazirX will have both PK and SK, which we can't access, right? Yes. So SK and PK, both you can read, and PK to everybody in the world can see. SK only you can see it. And by access, you can't write to it, but you can read it. Then Akshat asks, is there some kind of master key to access any account? No, there isn't. And that is the great part of any blockchain account, actually, there is no way to find out what private key you started with, because that private key was randomly generated somewhere. So for that reason, there is no way to create a master key to create those private keys. And then from those private keys, you can do everything else. So all of the proof is on the fact that this private key is being randomly generated. And that is done. Then is there no room for modification? No, there is no room for modification of the public key and private key once created. And the message cannot be modified once it has been created. Like, for example, when I create the transaction, and once the signature has been created, then there's no going back. Aren't the keys generated after we put in the message? No, the keys are generated way back. The keys are generated when you have like even created the account in the first place. It's the first step. And by the way, these keys are multiple use. Like once I've created a public key and private key for my account, that is the same public key, private key pair I will use for every single transaction afterwards. So it doesn't change. Once it's created, it's created. Aren't the keys generated after we put in the message? No. To what extent can the private key taken? What extent? Fauzan, can you please clarify what exactly you're asking? Then Mohit, private key is only used for payment transaction. Yes, private keys are only used when you are sending money, because the private key is only used to sign the fact that you are debiting money from your account. When you are receiving it, you just need to use the public key of that person to see whether that person has actually sent the amount he's saying. Like, for example, if I'm on a phone call with you, Mohit, saying ki, listen, I've sent you 50 rupees. But then you do the verification on your end using the signature, message, and my public key and see that that it's showing false. Then you can't say that, oh, I sent you 20 rupees or I sent you 10 rupees. But all you can look at that and say is, I have not sent you 50 rupees. And based on that, you can call me and say, hey, listen, you said you sent 50, but clearly my verify transaction is saying that it's false. So check on your end and like, let me know. So that is how verification on the receiver's end is done. So public key is for verifying that person X has made the transaction, right? Yes. Yes. Right. And that public key can be used by anybody in the world to verify that the person X who has made the transaction has made it correctly or not. Okay. In the interest of time, I will move on. And yeah, double spending, we'll get to that. And we'll get there. So again, what about forgery number 2? And this is double spending. So essentially, what if we just does this? Every single transaction is the same. So what is happening here is this signed by B is the same as we discussed. The message is the same, right? A paid B 1. Okay, so A paid B 1,000. I sign it, and now I verify. I can just verify it multiple times. So I can just create the same message again and again. And what essentially I'm doing here is I'm double spending. The way this is handled on the blockchain is you just add a transaction ID. So when I go here, I can add 1, A paid B this much. Then I can verify it worked. Now, if I say 2, A paid B 1,000 again, then the message signature completely changed. So now when I verify again, it's still working. But if I were to verify P paid 1,005, then it will not work. So you just add a transaction ID. And now let's just make the columns a bit more beautiful to see how this is. Again, as you can see, this is the transaction ID. These are the details, and this is the signature. So we have 3 separate things. These 2 are a part of the message. So when somebody uses the secret key, they will use SK and this message, and they will create the signature. And a person who wants to verify it will use the signature, the message, and the person who is sending the money's public key. And they will use all those 3 to verify whether that person has actually sent the money or not. So now there's a different problem which arises. Anybody can take on a lot of debt and never pay it back. Very simply speaking, there can probably be somebody who just बहुत उधारी लेता है basically. And we've all had that one friend in like college or school or whatever who's like, bro, listen, I'll pay you later. Just lend me money right now. And then he takes a lot of udhari, and you never know when to ask for it back or when he'll even pay it back. So anybody can take a lot of debt and even run away, never come back. So how do you handle this particular issue? That's by doing something called an initial transaction. What does that mean? So we have all of these 4 people, and let's say B wants to run away, or B wants to spend more than he has. So what we do to avoid that is we create these 4 transactions at the start. This is essentially like depositing 100 rupees into, let's say, some Zerodha's wallet or whatever. So when you deposit that shows up as credit on that particular end, and you can then use that 100 rupees to buy shares or whatever. This is essentially what we are doing here. We are saying that, okay, everybody now has 100 rupees credit. And now all of the transactions which that person does will be held against that particular credit he has made at the start. Now, notice that we don't have a signature here. That is because we are not, like, there is no sender here. You get it? A is the receiver. There is no sender. So there is no point of having a signature, because signature banate kaise hai? You take that person's secret key and you take that person's message. But now there is no secret key because there is no sender. It is all a receiver. A is the receiver. So for that reason, there are no signatures here. And then you can do all of these transactions. Then B can pay C50, and then B can pay C50 again. And now B's balance is 0. So B, as we spoke, is the malicious guy. He's trying to break the system. So again, let's just take a moment and does everybody get what I've said till now in terms of the initial transactions part? What has happened here? Why there is no signature?
Yes.
Again, sir, but Hindi. Okay, कहाँ से हिंदी? Like कौन से topics है? Please can you explain again? Why can't the signature be produced? Okay, cool. So why can't the signature be produced? What is a transaction? A transaction is a person A paying a person B some amount, right? This guy is the sender. This guy is the receiver. Now, when the signature is being created, we use the signature, the sender's secret key, okay, to create the signature. So we create this person's secret key, and we use the message to create the signature, right? Signature, whatever. Now, in this case, we just have B is receiving 100 rupees. In this particular transaction, Now there is no sender here. We are creating 100 rupees out of thin air almost on this particular ledger for B. So there is no sender to get a secret key from. Hence, there is no secret key to use to create a signature. And hence we don't have a signature at all for all of these 4 transactions. The same. Okay, Lokesh, I think what I'll do is, I think you had messaged me about this already. I will get back to you once the class is over. How about that? So the keyword here is these 400 have been mined. This is where the term comes from. It's been created out of thin air. Everybody now has 100 rupees each. They have been mined. So this is just an entry rather than a transaction. Yes, this is just an entry. There is no transaction. Transaction by definition is between 2 parties. This is just a one-party thing. Is there a way to verify this entry? No, there is no way to verify this entry, unfortunately. Everyone has to agree that this entry has happened. And this initial entry is why Zerodha makes you do your KYC. And not just Zerodha, every single thing, Binance, WazirX, all of these people, they do your KYC, they take your PAN card, Aadhaar card, everything. And then they make you deposit those 100 rupees from your Indian bank account into Ethereum. Okay. You get it? Would you explain mind? Okay. So mind is essentially just a term which is used to explain any transaction which does not have a sender. Only a receiver, not a sender. That is called mind. Mind is used mainly in the context of miner rewards, block rewards, and all of those things. That is something which we will get to a bit later. CoinSwitch gives 50 rupees Bitcoin initially. Okay, that I have no clue about. Yeah, there are some like there are some incentives which some exchanges provide when you join. This I have no clue about. So we will talk about mined. The exact term what mined means is by definition a transaction without a sender. We will get to what mining rewards and everything of that sort is in a later part. So I'll move on. And now we can easily catch overspends. So now if we have these 4 people who are creating these transactions at the very start, sort of crediting this amount, and then these transactions happening. Now when B tries to like pay more, when B is trying to pay 20 rupees more, what we can do is we can just look at this transaction history and see, okay, B had 100, then minus 50, then minus 50. This guy has 0. Now this guy can't pay this. And hence this transaction can be sort of verified using the history of the transactions and ensure that overspending doesn't happen. So now we can look at the list of innovations. One thing has now been added: ledgers, digital signatures, and initial transactions. So that is there to prevent overspending. So let's just go again one by one. A ledger is something to avoid settling up after every transaction. It's just something which is done for convenience sake. Then digital signatures. Digital signatures are something which are done to prevent fraudulent transactions. The third thing is overspending prevent karne ke liye we use initial transactions, which is sort of like creating credit. But one thing to note here is these are not new innovations, in the sense that ledgers have been around from 2000 BC. Ever since man has been able to write, ever since man has been able to do business, transact, they've had ledgers, because a ledger is essentially just a list of all the transactions which you've done. So even the person, like even the sabzi wala has a notebook where he writes down every single trade which has happened throughout the day. He's not using a blockchain. Then digital signatures have been around since 1956. They were created in 1956, and even MasterCard and Visa use a form of digital signatures. So that is not blockchain. Then initial transactions, again, that's been around since the 1960s. You're essentially just crediting before you debit. So that is also not something new. Like this is basically credit cards, essentially. 1960s is when credit cards sort of a credit. So debit cards. What did Bitcoin do different? What is Bitcoin adding to this pie that is setting it apart from everybody? And that is what we're looking at. So the level 4, this is where the blockchain is sort of created. This is where Bitcoin is happening. The problem here is the central ledger is on an app or a website. The problem with this is anybody can hack it. Anybody can hack it. If your thing is splitwise and it's stored on some splitwise server somewhere, okay, somebody can attack it. Even you, like if you're smart enough, you can attack it, and you can change whatever value you have to pay to your friends to 0. You've saved money. If it's on some website, then also again it can be easily hacked. So what is the solution to that? The solution to that is everybody has their own ledger, and that is where Bitcoin really created a ripple everywhere, because the main innovation it had was on the ability for every single person to agree on a ledger. So now essentially what happens is every single person has a copy of this ledger. Every single person knows every single transaction which is happening on this ledger. So yeah, okay. So does anybody have any doubts still here? Does system evaluate transaction is not possible, or receiver has to check on his end? So essentially what happens is the miner is the person who does this evaluation. So that person will do the verification, and if that transaction is found to be correct, like verified, then that person adds it to the block, and then the block is mined. This is something which we'll get to again. Any other doubts? Can you explain initial transaction again, please, as to who does the first entry? Like, is it opening balance? Yes, it is opening balance. In the sense that you are starting off with some amount of money. You are essentially paying somebody to like get your foot into the door for that particular like ledger. How hacking is possibly as verification can be too done. Hacking for this, right? So we're talking about hacking for this. Now, what I'm saying is if you are able to access the database, not just hacking, any way you can write to the database in a way which is not authorized. For example, you get a job at Splitwise. That is also a malicious way to change whatever you owe to somebody. Like you can find your Splitwise and then make it 0. I'm not saying it's possible. I'm sure Splitwise has made their code proper, but any way in which you can maliciously hack whatever ledger you have, like for example, even if you have a notebook, if you rack up a lot of debt and you just tear up that notebook and throw it away, that notebook which is used by everybody, then you have essentially done the same thing. Now nobody remembers who paid how much what. For that reason, you've essentially saved yourself of all of the money you had to owe somebody. And that is why everybody needs to have their own ledger. Then mining occurs when transaction is verified. Yes, again, mining is something which we are going to get to. But as a sneak peek, yes, mining happens when a certain number of transactions are verified. So yes, ledgers are done. Now, what happens in this particular case is, if we look at a transaction, now again, A is paying B 10 rupees. That is our transaction which is happening here. So what happens is every time this transaction happens, A is going to broadcast it to the world. Every single person on the network is going to hear that A is paying B 10 rupees, even like every single person. Then everyone adds that particular entry to their ledger. Every single person is going to add it to their ledger. But now this is where what everybody is asking essentially, what about malicious actors? So this is something called a Byzantine generals problem. It's a bit theoretical, but bear with me. So what Byzantine generals problem essentially means is, Byzantine is a place in Greece. I think so. No, I think it was an empire or something like that. They had a problem where some of their generals were not loyal. So what used to happen is, if these are the people of the Byzantine army, all of these people, and they are attacking an enemy, then they will only win if everybody attacks at the same time. So a coordinated attack is going to lead to a victory. But if one of them is a traitor, then what can happen is they might run away and then they won't win. Now, the way somebody creates a coordinated attack is through communication. What will happen is, for example, this guy will tell this guy, okay, I am going to attack today at 5 p.m. If this guy is also loyal, he will say that, okay, we are going to plan to attack at 5 p.m. And that is how everybody understands that we are going to attack at 5 p.m. today. And then everybody attacks. But if somebody is a traitor here, then if this guy who is a loyal person says 5 p.m. attack, this guy might say 6 p.m. attack to this guy, and he will run away. So making it uncoordinated will lead to defeat. And this is what the blockchain paper solved by using something called miners. So how do you get everyone to agree? You need a consensus mechanism. You need everybody to agree that this transaction is valid and this transaction is not valid. So making sure everybody can agree on every single transaction that happens in every single person's ledger in that particular order is what a blockchain is. A blockchain is a ledger which is decentralized, which is immutable. So every single transaction that goes on to every single person's ledger cannot be erased. It can only be only appended to that particular ledger, and every single transaction has to be verified. So making sure that every single actor in this particular network is on the same terms, that is what a consensus mechanism is, and that is what Bitcoin did. Bitcoin invented proof of work. So now we can finally look at the list of innovations. These three we had before, and the consensus mechanism, which solves the BFT. BFT is nothing but Byzantine fault tolerance, which is the solution to the Byzantine generals problem, was created in 2009. So again, let's have a question answer session. Can you explain about consensus mechanisms again? So a consensus mechanism essentially means a mechanism, a way in which every single person on the network comes to agreement on a particular situation. So if the situation is A has paid B 50 rupees, then every single person on that network has to agree that A has paid B 50 rupees. That is only when all of these ledger copies will make sense, right? Like that is the way all of these ledger copies will stay in sync with each other, because every single person is accepting that that particular transaction has happened. And the mechanism which you do to achieve consensus is called a consensus mechanism. Is it verified by a miner? Yes. Yes. Any other doubts? So again, what is a blockchain? A blockchain is you take a ledger and you divide it into blocks. This is what you do. So, Samjo, you have a ledger. A ledger, let's say, is a notebook which has like okay, we have another doubt. If there are 1,000 people making transactions, what will come through me, and will I have to verify all of them? If you are a miner, then what you do is essentially you start picking up transactions which are happening around you. So there is a pool of transactions, and all of the transactions which are happening across the world come into that pool of transactions. And then you start picking them up one after the other and you start verifying them. And that is what a miner essentially does. You verify them and then you work on a cryptographic proof, which is again something which we'll get into. So the transaction won't take place even if one of them disagrees. Right, good question. One of them disagrees is a very small number. So what happens is if that one person disagrees, but if the 99 people around that person agree, then we assume that the system is tolerant enough that a malicious person cannot take control of all other 99 nodes. And then the person who is disagreeing is the malicious one. Essentially, what we are saying is the side which has greater than 51% majority, like if 51% of them are saying that this transaction is valid and 49% of them are saying that it is not valid, then side with the 51%. Yes, that is a 51% attack. That is again, thode aage hai slides mein, but you guys are asking the right questions, so I'm feeding that feature. Fraudulent signature, please can you explain once? What part of it was fraudulent? I'll get back to this. How about at 10:30? After 10:30, we'll do the fraudulent signature part. Aniket, just remind me after that. Is consensus mechanism the distributed P2P network where most of the ledgers have to agree on the same transaction? It's not the network. It is the mechanism by which the peers come to an agreement of the ledger. 90% of what you wrote is right. It's just not the network. It's the distributed peer-to-peer, I would say, algorithm where most of the ledgers have to agree on the same transaction. Yes. Okay. So then when we look at a blockchain, it is divided into blocks. A very simplistic example of what a block is if you have a ledger of 1,000 transactions, and that's like a notebook. So then each page of the notebook can hold like 10 transactions, and you can consider that's a block. As simple as that. So these are like 10 transactions which are in one block. Then the next block again has 10 transactions. The next block again has 10 transactions. This block n, n+1, n+2, whatever. Now what happens here is this is the hash of the nth block. How is this nth block hash calculated? You take these transactions and this hash gets created. Oh, sorry, my bad. This should be n. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then you take this block's hash and you take this stuff and you create a particular hash. Okay. Now this hash also contains things like the block number and things like that. So that's why this is outside. And now this hash is used as the start for the next one. So this hash, how will it be calculated? These hashes, this hash block number is equal to this. I'll write it so that it makes it better. Block number, then hash of previous block, so n-1th block, and the transaction hashes, the hashes of the transactions. When you hash these, you get the block hash. So you get block n+1's hash. Okay, doubts? So any doubts on this particular thing which I said? And it's scribbling onto the text, but you take the hash of the previous block, you take the block number. Okay. You take the block number. This is one thing. You take the hash of the previous block. So previous block's hash, and you take the hash of all of these transactions. And then you hash all of these. And that hash which you get, H dash, this is this. And where will this be used? This will be used as the hash of the next block. And then this chain will continue again and again and again. Do I have a demo for this? So let's look at this. So assume this is your block number 1, and you have a data, let's say A pays B 30 rupees, and this block gets mined. Now you can see that this is the previous hash. It's 0 because this is the first block and it doesn't have anything that came before it. And you also have the current hash. This is the hash of this stuff. Okay. Now the next block, the previous hash of this block is the same as the hash of this block. Now I don't know. Yeah. So 0000 E25A. This is the same thing. And this will continue forever. Like when I mine this one, then this is the hash which gets created. And then this is the hash of the previous block. And this forms a chain because this points to this. This points to this. And that way you're creating a linked list of all of these transactions. And that is the blockchain. So any doubts? Okay. Wouldn't it be time consuming to broadcast the ledger to every single person? Yes. And that is why all of these miners, they pay a lot of money to get the lowest latency connection possible. Because when, let's say I make a transaction in India and there is some miner which is sitting in, let's say US, and that guy is trying to mine it, then to ensure that I am the first person to get the broadcast, I want the lowest latency connection possible between me and the person who made the transaction in India. And hence it actually pays to pay for that extra money to buy like a specific a specific network and things like that just for this stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of money which goes into making sure that the miners are the first to get this transaction, because it is so time consuming because of networks. So what makes hashes secure is that it's not in binary. No. So this is binary only. This is something called hexadecimal. Hexadecimal is a way of writing binary in a small way. So a simple example is if you want to write 5. So 5 in our normal numeric system is just 5. But if you want to write 5 in binary, how do you write it? You write it as 101. Am I doing this right? Yes, 101. This is how you're writing it in this particular system. So there is a way to write 5 in another system, and that is hexadecimal. So this is just a system by which you write it. You should read a bit about hexadecimal. Like if you want, I'll send this link to you. You can find out about what hexadecimal is and things like that. Are the transactions in a particular block made by a single person, or are they random? They're completely random. They're not by a single person. So what happens is all of these transactions, they are happening all across the world, right? Like hundreds of transactions happening every minute and things like that. So they go into like a centralized transaction pool, and the miners are picking up the transactions from that miner pool, and then they are validating them, mining that block, and then they are pushing it. Hash is secure because it's totally random. Yes. Yeah, I think you're answering the previous one. Yeah, thanks, Akshay. Sridhar Kamath, how do miners actually verify the transaction? We'll get to that. Like that is the next part. Is this mechanism which we are calling as consensus mechanism? Yes. So how do you add a new block? You mine it. And there are dedicated miners who create these blocks from a pool of transactions. Now it's already 10:30. So I don't want to get into how it's mined today, because that is a huge topic which we will handle in either tomorrow's class or some other class after that. But this is, I think, where it's a good place to end today's lecture. So we will talk about how a new block gets added to a particular blockchain once we get there. So yeah, that is it, guys. Do you guys have any doubts apart from anything about how blocks are mined? Okay, I guess we're done. Okay, so a few things before we end this class, just a few housekeeping things. First of all, these lectures will be recorded. So I will be uploading them to YouTube, and I will send all of you guys a link. It's going to be unlisted because yeah, like we don't want people who are not enrolled in the course to see it, obviously. So it's going to be unlisted. We'll send you the link in some time. Secondly, thanks for joining the Google Classroom. Usually it becomes really painful to get everywhere to join, but I'm happy with this particular group of people. Everybody was really, they were taking the first step in order to join the Google Classroom and everything. So I'm very happy about that. And I will be uploading some material or the other every single day from Monday onwards, like not tomorrow, but from Monday onwards, I'll upload like a link, something like a TEDx talk or something like that. And that way you guys can keep learning throughout the week, so that next week when we start learning some other topic or something like that, then we can pick up with a faster pace. Yes, we do have a class tomorrow, just saying. There are some doubts. Why do miners verify transactions? So the fundamental question is, transactions need to be verified and someone needs to verify them. And anybody can be a miner. So that is sort of how it works. Why do miners verify transactions? On the miner side is because they get money from it. Miners get something called a miner reward or a block reward, from where they earn money, and that money can be used to like basically make a profit. So the main thing which Bitcoin has is this consensus mechanism only, which makes it super secure. Yes, Bitcoin has this consensus mechanism, which not only makes it secure, but it makes it globally accepted, in the sense that what this consensus mechanism is it is allowing every single node on the transaction, every single person who is a part of this Bitcoin network, to know that, okay, hey, Divyanshu has made this particular transaction to, let's say, Mohit. Everybody in the world now knows that this transaction exists, and everybody agrees. Everybody has consensus on it. And that is what makes it super secure. What if the miner is only the traitor? Right. So what if the miner is the traitor? That is again something which we'll cover later. But what happens is, if there is a miner which is creating a fake block, then there is going to be okay, we will cover this in the next part. Please, Athara, can you explain fraudulent signatures? Yes, we'll get to that. Okay, so makes it public. Is mining better than just buying crypto from some secondary app? Mining is actually not profitable anymore, because the cost of electricity it takes to mine is actually higher than the equivalent amount of money you will get. So that is why mining is not sort of economically feasible. The only way mining is economically feasible is if you have a lot of equipment already bought. For example, if you have hundreds of graphics cards lying around, then you can plug them in and you can probably make a small amount of profit. Mining essentially means you are creating transactions out of thin air. We talked about this in the past. Again, this is something which we will cover in the next class, so don't worry, guys. We will talk about mining and everything specifically tomorrow. Every computer has a copy of transactions. It means transactions are visible. So why is it necessary for miner to verify? The thing is, every single person who is creating this transaction, they need to know, like the receiver needs to know that this transaction is valid. Now, the thing is, every single receiver of every transaction does not have the computational power to verify. Okay. Like, for example, if I have a mobile phone and I am trading Bitcoin, then my mobile phone does not have the computational power to mine my own block and all of those things. For that reason, it's sort of like a miner is providing us a service which is going to handle all of our transactions for us. And in return for him providing us the service of verifying all of these transactions, he is getting an incentive called a block mining reward, which we will get to tomorrow. Thanks, Divyanshu. I am very glad that you liked it. And I hope everybody else who was a part of it also liked it. I learned about 51. If most miners know each other, can they do this coordinated attack? Yes, this is one thing I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Yes, people can do 51% tax, and that is why Bitcoin is quote unquote said to not be secure anymore. So essentially what happens is there is something called a mining pool. A very basic explanation of what a mining pool is I and you, we both are two people who have some equipment. So what can happen is we both can say, okay, I know you, you know me. We can start working together and we can start putting both of our equipment together so that our mining power is increased. It's called hashing rate. So our hashing rate is increased. Now, if 51% of the people know each other, then that can be attacked and somebody can actually crash Bitcoin. And unfortunately, there are 3 mining pools right now, which are the 3 largest mining pools. And they have a total of greater than 51% of the total amount of hashing rate in the current Bitcoin ecosystem. So if they wanted to work together, they could bring Bitcoin down, but they are not bringing it down because the profit you get from mining Bitcoin for them is more than the profit they will make by bringing it down. So it's all a game of economic incentives. Yeah.
हेलो
Yeah, I can hear you.
मोक्ष यार, अभी मेरे को ये डाउट था कि जैसे तो बोला भी माइनिंग पूल के पास 3 मेजर है, तो ये सेंट्रलाइज एक्सपेक्ट नहीं आ रहा है इसमें, मतलब क्योंकि
हाँ, तो
मेन
हो रहा
ये
है।
डिसेंट्रलाइज हो सके।
हाँ, तो बात वही है ना कि ये सेंट्रलाइजेशन हो रहा है बिटकॉइन स्पेसिफिकली में, बिकॉज बिटकॉइन में क्या हो गया, इतना सारा रश हो गया कि सारे लोग उसमें घुसने लगे, और जब बहुत लोग घुसने लगे तब कोalitions होने लगे, बिकॉज आफ्टर ऑल इट्स अ गेम ऑफ इंसेंटिव्स, लोगों को प्रॉफिट कमाना है, और अगर तू और मैं कोalition बनाएंगे तो हमारा प्रॉफिट बढ़ जाएगा, और हम अगर इक्वली प्रॉफिट स्प्लिट करेंगे दैट इज मोर प्रॉफिट देन इफ आई वर माइनिंग अलोन एंड यू वर माइन अलोन। तो वो थोड़ा इशू हो रहा है अभी बिटकॉइन में, एंड दैट इज व्हाई देयर आर अदर क्रिप्टो करेंसीज जहां पे दे यूज some other things like for example abhi Ethereum is moving something called proof of stake. तो we are going to talk about proof of stake in probably week 2 क्योंकि उस टाइम पे अपन इथेरियम के बारे में मेनली बात करेंगे, बट एसेंशियली व्हाट दैट डज इज इट गेट्स रिड ऑफ माइनिंग एंटायरली। तो अगर माइनिंग ही नहीं है तो माइनिंग पूल्स भी नहीं है, और माइनिंग पूल्स नहीं है तो ऐसे 51% अटैक ही नहीं हो सकता, तो सेंट्रलाइजेशन की बात ही नहीं हुई। बट हाँ, बिटकॉइन स्पेसिफिकली में आज के दिन में डेफिनेटली थोड़ा ही हो रहा है। होप दैट आंसर्स योर क्वेश्चन। Aniket, I will get back to your fraudulent signature का question. Just give me 2 minutes. ये सारे एक एक करके कर लूँगा। Can a miner trade on the same platform? Is mining possible in Android? Not that I know of. There might be some app, but yeah. Can a miner trade on the same platform too? Yes, definitely. Miners are trading on the same platform. Like, yes, if I were to become a miner, if I were to go out and buy all of the mining graphics cards and everything, and I can start a miner, and I can also use that computer for transactions on Binance or WazirX or whatever. Thanks, Akshat. Really nice to hear. Other use cases of hash functions other than crypto? Just curious. सोच के बताता हूँ यार। बट हाँ, होंगे, काफी मस्त होंगे। I mean, one is definitely DSA में बहुत पूछते हैं, तो if any of you guys are preparing for internships, preparing for placements, hashing का जो भी algorithms है अच्छे से सीख के जाना, because a lot of questions come on that. I know because I've gone through enough interviews to know that hashing is super important. Other use cases of हाँ, thank you Fauzan. Mohit, how can they bring it down? हैशिंग ही बंद कर देंगे। अच्छा नहीं, सॉरी, क्या करेंगे कि समझो हम दोनों कोलिशन कर रहे हैं, मैं और मोहित, तो समझो आई से कि मोहित पेड मी 50 रुपीज, एंड एट द एंड ऑफ द डे बिटकॉइन क्या है? बिटकॉइन इज एन आइडिया, ओके, देयर इज नो बैकिंग टू बिटकॉइन। इट्स नॉट लाइक कि अगर एक बिटकॉइन माइन होता है तो कोई किसी रिजर्व में एक केजी गोल्ड रखता है और समथिंग लाइक दैट। देयर इजंट अ 1:1 पार्टनरशिप। So what can happen essentially is somebody can start just saying, okay, Mohit is paying me 50, Mohit is paying me 50, and I can create all of these millions of transactions and I will get 50 million Bitcoin. Okay. and then I can just start cashing them in one after the other. So before anybody can find out ये हो रहा है, मैं बस cash in करना चालू कर दूंगा WazirX पे या Binance पे. I just start cashing them in. So I can create a lot of money that way. And because 51% of all of the like hashing power is with me, I can just ensure कि कुछ नहीं होता है आगे. Like I can just ensure कि जो सारे actually valid transactions है वो नहीं होते, and बस मेरे malicious transactions चलते हैं. So that is how they can bring the whole system down to its knees. Is this why Bitcoin is skyrocketing? ये जो है, this is something I will talk about in cryptocurrencies. Why it is rocketing, the economics behind it, why there was a bull run, अब क्यों गिर रहा है Bitcoin, is Dogecoin the next Bitcoin, Akshat? ये सब बोलूंगा. वो क्या है blockchain? Amazing. Thanks यार लोकेश. Divyanshu, I read in a white paper that Bitcoin will reach 10 million per coin. How does this much inflation of price occur? This is again a part of the economics of cryptocurrencies. So this is something which I want to dedicate a good 45 minutes to 1 hour about in week 2. Cryptocurrencies is going to be week 2 pura, and I will handle everything there. Fair Mox, thanks. If a crypto is mined 100%, then it is 100% totally decentralized. Nahi. So when a crypto is 100% mined, that means there are going to be no more tokens in circulation. So it's like saying कि life में Indian government बस 100 करोड़ रुपए ही प्रिंट करेगी. तो अगर 100 करोड़ प्रिंट हो गए तो खत्म. That means it is 100% mined. But that doesn't mean it's decentralized in the sense that मेरे पास 100 रुपए है, तेरे पास 200 रुपए होंगे, अंबानी के पास 10 करोड़ रुपए होंगे, etc. So Divyanshu, that answers your question hopefully. इसका कंट्रोल किसके पास है बिटकॉइन का? किसी के पास कंट्रोल नहीं है, एंड दैट इज व्हाई इट इज डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड. अगर सेंट्रलाइज्ड होता तो दैट मींस कोई कंपनी होती. Yeah, thank you Ananya for attending it. I understand it's very late in the night, so thanks a lot for attending it. But your balance is visible to everyone, so won't it be seen that you are using false means? हाँ, तो देखो कैसी बात है. My account ID is available to everybody, but only I know that I own that account. Nobody else, like you can't look at an account number and be like, okay, this is owned by Atharva. अब ऐसे ही सोचो ना, तुम्हारे पास SBI का अकाउंट होगा, HDFC का अकाउंट होगा. You can't look at the HDFC bank account number, and unless you are HDFC, then like only if you are HDFC you can tell कि okay, this is Mohit's bank account. Otherwise कोई ऐरा गैरा बंदा, I can't go into HDFC and be like, hey listen, this is the account number, can you please tell me ये किसका है? They'll be like, who are you? Do you have a police warrant? What are you like? तो that is what it takes care of. कोई भी सर्वर है क्या हेड ऑफिस? नहीं होता. कोई सर्वर नहीं होता. बेसिकली ये जो सब डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन की बात ऐसी है कि बेसिकली वर्ल्ड में बहुत सारी जगहों पे इसके सॉर्ट ऑफ सर्वर्स ही होते हैं, एंड व्हाट दैट एसेंशियली डज इज इट मेक श्योर कि किसी एक बंदे के पास पूरी पावर ना आ जाए. थैंक्स सागर, थैंक्स श्रीधर. And Divyanshu, what I meant by decentralized is that people can't do a 51% attack practically. Yes and no, because अगर like again back to the India example of 100 crore printed, अगर समझो 100 करोड़ प्रिंट हो गए एंड like मेरे पास ही सारे 100 करोड़ आ गए फॉर आई डोंट नो हाउ, मैंने सारे लोगों को मर्डर कर दिया, तो that 51% attack can be done. Like I have essentially gotten more than 51%, so then I can do everything essentially. Where can we actually see all the transactions? Blockchain Explorer, yes. Most sites have a Blockchain Explorer and you can use it to see. उसका नाम भूल गया मैं. Aniket, are you still around? Can you put a message if you're around? I'll explain that thing you had asked. Really sorry Aniket, थोड़ा 15 मिनट तेरा ये हो गया. Okay, cool, Aniket. We will get back to. Yes, thanks यार लोकेश. So Aniket, तेरा क्वेश्चन क्या था वापस? Can you unmute your mic? बात करके अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन कर पाऊंगा.
Yeah, my question was fraudster signature के बारे में था.
Okay, हाँ. That was here, right? Digital signatures में. यहाँ पे ना. अनिकेत आवाज आ रही है?
Yes.
हाँ cool. So इसमें क्या डाउट है? लाइक यू कैन आस्क मी एंड आई विल आंसर, उससे हो जाएगा.
No, I was to about ask you that fraudulent I pronunciation गलत हो गया शायद.
हाँ कोई बात नहीं, हिंदी में ही बता दो.
शायद. Yes.
हाँ तो ये जो फ्रॉडुलेंट फंक्शन होते हैं, चलो इस पे ही देखता है. कहाँ गया वो वाला? हाँ ये देखो, अब यहाँ पे ये हो रहे हैं हमारे ट्रांजैक्शंस. ठीक है, यहाँ पे ये ओके. डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट अ प्राइवेट की इज?
Yeah, I understood.
ओके कूल. तो प्राइवेट की एसेंशियली एज वी सेड रैंडमली जनरेटेड नंबर उससे पब्लिक की बन गई. नाउ यहाँ पे मैसेज मैंने लिखा कि अथर्व पेड अनिकेत 50 रुपीज. ओके, अब यहाँ पे ये मैसेज है एंड मैं अब तुझे अब ऐसे पैरेलली समझ ले, मैं फोन पे हूँ और मैंने तेरे को बोल दिया देख मैंने तेरे को 50 रुपए जीपे कर दिए. ठीक है, और तू बोलेगा प्रूफ क्या है? तो व्हाट आई विल से इज ये है मेरा मैसेज, ये है मेरा प्राइवेट की, और ये मैं कर रहा हूँ मैसेज साइन, और ये मैं तेरे को मैसेज सिग्नेचर भेजूंगा, कॉपी पेस्ट करके व्हाट्सएप से भेज दूंगा. समझ ले. अब तू क्या करेगा? वेरीफाई में आएगा, ये सिग्नेचर पेस्ट करेगा, मेरा पब्लिक की मेरे से मांगेगा या किसी पब्लिक पोर्टल पे मिलेगा, और ये मैसेज डालेगा और चेक करेगा कि वेरीफाई ट्रू कर रहा है या फॉल्स कर रहा है. ओके, अब वापस साइन में जाता है और अब मैं करता हूँ ये 10 रुपए साइन कर देता हूँ. तो अब समझ, मैं तेरे को कॉल करता हूँ और बोलता हूँ हाय अनिकेत, मैं तेरे को 50 रुपए भेज दिया. तू बोलेगा प्रूफ क्या है? तो मैं बोलूंगा ये ले, ये मैसेज सिग्नेचर, और मैं तेरे को ये मैसेज सिग्नेचर भेजूंगा जहां पे मैंने एक्चुअली 10 रुपए भेजा है. अब तू जब वेरीफाई में जाएगा, ये सिग्नेचर पेस्ट करेगा, मेरा पब्लिक की पेस्ट करेगा, और ये मैसेज पेस्ट करेगा, और वेरीफाई बोलेगा अच्छा नहीं ये सॉरी. तो अब तू 50 रुपए डालेगा बिकॉज व्हाट यू आर चेकिंग इज मैंने 50 रुपए भेजे क्या. तो तू ये टाइप करेगा कि अथर्वा पेड अनिकेत 50, पब्लिक की मेरे से ले लिया और सिग्नेचर मैंने तुझे भेजा, और तू जब वेरीफाई क्लिक करेगा तब ये फॉल्स आएगा. समझ रहे हो?
Oh yeah. Yes.
ओके ऑसम. तो हाँ देख, कोई भी डाउट आया ना, कोई बात नहीं, मेरे को व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज कर दे. मैंने मेरे ग्रुप पे मतलब मैं हुई ऑलरेडी, तो बिंदास मैसेज कर दे, समझ में आ जाएगा. और किसने क्या क्या भेजा? दिव्यांशु, आई शेयर वन वीडियो इन द ग्रुप वेयर यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड इफ प्राइस समथिंग. यस थैंक यू मोहित. इकोनॉमिक्स का ये वीडियो होगा मोस्टली, विच इज नॉट द सेम विद फिएट. यस परफेक्ट, ऑसम, कूल. देन गाइस इट्स 10:45, थोड़ा एक्सटेंड हो गया. तो सैटरडे नाइट है तो अच्छी बात है, बट संडे नाइट को थोड़ा एक्सटेंड कर नहीं पाएंगे क्योंकि एज आई सेड मंडे को काम होता है. लाइक सुबह थोड़ा उठ के लाइक ज्वाइन करना पड़ेगा, प्लस एज एन आई एम एन इंटर्न, लाइक आई सॉर्ट ऑफ हैव टू वर्क हार्डर बिकॉज जॉब मतलब ऑफर मिल सकती है या नहीं पता नहीं. वन लास्ट थिंग, इफ द पीपल हु हैव ज्वाइंड फॉर द 1999 वाला कोर्स आर हियर, तुम लोग मेरे को पीएम कर दो एक बार व्हाट्सएप पे. तुम्हारा व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बनाना रह गया तो आई विल क्रिएट दैट, एंड देन आई कैन गिव यू स्लॉट्स अबाउट द टाइमिंग्स वी कैन सॉर्ट ऑफ अरेंज अ वन-on-one मीटिंग ओवर द वीक, ओवर द कमिंग वीक. सो मंडे से फ्राइडे के बीच में कभी भी अगर मिलना है तो आई विल गिव यू स्लॉट्स, मैसेज कर देना, वी कैन कैच अप. एंड या Sagar, then people can do trial and error to verify the real transaction. That is exactly the point of this. ये कहाँ गया? Cryptographic hash functions, not easily reversible. What happens here is, फिंगरप्रिंट के एग्जांपल में ही देख लो, ये फिंगरप्रिंट तुझे मिल गया, इसको इजीली देख के तू बता नहीं सकता कि किसका है, तुझे फोरेंसिक एनालिसिस करना पड़ेगा, एंड फोरेंसिक एनालिसिस टेक्स टाइम. सिमिलरली अगर तेरे पास कहाँ गया, अगर समझ तेरे पास ये हैश है तो तू इजीली ये डेटा नहीं बता सकता. एंड एक्सटेंडिंग दैट अ बिट मोर, अगर तेरे पास मेरा अगर समझ मैंने तेरे को भेजा कि किसने क्वेश्चन पूछा है ये सागर. सो अगर समझो मैंने बोला अथर्व पेड सागर 50 रुपीज. मैंने तेरे को फोन पे बोला कि सुन मैंने तेरे को 50 रुपए भेज दिए हैं. एंड नाउ दैट यू नो दिस इज द मैसेज अथर्व पेड सागर 50 रुपीज एंड मैंने तेरे को ये मैसेज सिग्नेचर भेज दिया. क्रिप्टोग्राफी सेज कि इवन इफ यू हैव दीज टू दिस इज वेरी हार्ड टू फाइंड. उल्टा नहीं जा सकते तुम वन वे जा सकते हो. मैसेज और की लेके तो मैसेज सिग्नेचर बनाना बहुत इजी है. लाइक एज यू सी ब्राउजर पे भी 1 सेकंड में बन जाती है. बट उल्टा जाना इज इम्पॉसिबल. इसका भी थोड़ा मतलब थोड़ा मैथ्स है. कितने लोग हैं? 19 पीपल है. मे बी आई कैन नहीं यार, आज रात को नहीं, कल करते हैं यार. कुछ यूट्यूब लिंक मिल सकता है ब्लॉकचेन इंडस्ट्री का बेसिक क्लियर करने के लिए, हिंदी और इंग्लिश कोर्स से रिलेटेड? देखो लोकेश, एक तो आप मेरे को पूछते जाओ, मैं ये जो डाउट सॉल्विंग सेशन है वो हिंदी में ही कर सकता हूँ अच्छे से, क्योंकि मेरे को भी लाइक हिंदी बेटर है थोड़ा इंग्लिश से, टू बी ऑनेस्ट. एंड सेकेंडली अगर आपको मतलब थोड़ी दिक्कत आएगी तो कोई बात नहीं, मैसेज कर दो व्हाट्सएप पे, मैं आपके डाउट सारे क्लियर कर लूंगा. अनफॉर्चुनेटली बिकॉज ब्लॉकचेन के ज्यादा रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, सारे इंग्लिश में है, तो मैं जो भी आपको बताऊंगा सारे कोर्सेरा के कोर्सेज बताऊंगा जो इंग्लिश में होते हैं. तो हाँ कोई बात नहीं लोकेश, आई थिंक आप अपनी व्हाट्सएप पे बात हो चुकी है ऑलरेडी. तो व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज किया करो, मैं आपको हिंदी में सारा मतलब सॉल्व कर दूंगा, मतलब कोई बात नहीं. कूल सागर को
वन मोर थिंग अतर,
हाँ
एक चीज और पूछना था मेरे को. सो
हाँ बोलो.
जैसे ये जो मैसेज होता है, सो दिस इज सेंडर विल राइट दैट मैसेज, राइट?
राइट.
Okay, so like just a doubt in my head कि जैसे you have told Aniket, right, कि जैसे Atharv has paid Aniket 50
हाँ.
and हाँ, and and you have actually paid 10, right?
हाँ. So समझो मैंने यहाँ 10 लिखा और मैंने 10 भेज दिया और ये मैसेज बन गया, और मैंने अनिकेत को कॉल करके बोला कि लिसन मैंने तेरे को 50 रुपए भेज दिए. तो he will take this message signature, he will take my public key and he will check कि 50 रुपए भेजे या नहीं and false है.
Okay, so isn't it like second, like other way around कि जैसे message तो for example so this message will be created by itself, no? कि मैं खुद ही क्रिएट करूंगा, बिकॉज मैं ऐसा भी कर सकता हूँ ना, उल्टा कर सकता हूँ. मैं अथर्व को यहाँ पे लिख देता हूँ कि जैसे मैंने लिखा अथर्व पे अनिकेत 10, राइट, सिग्नेचर जब मैं बना रहा था, तो मैं वो लिख देता हूँ अथर्व पेड यहाँ पे 10 लिखा था, मैं 50 लिख देता हूँ और मैं उसे 10 पे कर देता हूँ. कि या फिर व्हेन आई पे समथिंग दैट ट्रू अमाउंट विल बी एडेड एज अ लाइक जो सिग्नेचर बनेगा उसमें ट्रू अमाउंट ही जाएगा. मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है, जो सिग्नेचर बनेगा उसमें सिर्फ ट्रू अमाउंट ही जाएगा क्या?
हाँ मतलब सो आर यू सेइंग कि मतलब I'll say what I have interpreted your question as. समझो मैंने बोला I am paying, अच्छा ओके समझो मैंने अनिकेत को बोला कि मैं 10 रुपए भेज रहा हूँ तुझे, बट मैंने गलती से 10 के बजाय 50 भेज दिए, तो ये बन गया सिग्नेचर. और वेरीफाई में अनिकेत ने डाले 10, क्योंकि मैंने उसको फोन पे बोला था मैं 10 भेज रहा हूँ, बट मैंने एक्चुअली गलती से 50 भेज दिए, और ये सिग्नेचर डालेगा तो फॉल्स आएगा. इज दैट व्हाट यू आर आस्किंग?
नो, कैन यू गो टू दैट साइन थिंग?
हाँ साइन.
व्हाट आई एम आस्किंग इज बेसिकली मैंने कॉल पे अथर्व को अनिकेत को बोला कि मैं तुम्हें लाइक 50 मैंने उस पे बोला कि मैंने 50 भेज रहा हूँ, ठीक है, लेकिन मैंने उसको भेजा 10. मैं क्या मैसेज में कुछ चेंजेस कर सकता हूँ? जैसे अभी इसमें दिख रहा है कि मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो ट्रू अमाउंट है वो मैसेज में रिफ्लेक्ट होगा क्या? जैसे कि अगर मैं बोलूं कि भाई मैंने आपको 50 रुपए दे दिए, लेकिन मैंने आपको असल में 10 रुपए दिए, तो अभी क्या होता है कि मैसेज में अगर मैंने आपको 10 रुपए दिए हैं तो वो 10 रुपीज लिखा आ जाता है. हम जब सिग्नेचर क्रिएट करते हैं तो हम उसमें असली अमाउंट लिख देते हैं. तो मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि वो चीज हम ट्रू अमाउंट ही डाल सकते हैं मैसेज में, कि हम यहाँ पे भी कुछ चेंज कर सकते हैं मैसेज के अंदर ट्रू अमाउंट के अलावा?
नहीं, ट्रू अमाउंट ही जाती है. बिकॉज ये जो मैसेज जा रहा है दिस इज नॉट समथिंग व्हिच आई एम राइटिंग, ये सिस्टम जनरेटेड है एसेंशियली.
हाँ, वही मेरा क्वेश्चन था मेरा. हाँ
ओह ओके ओके ओके. हाँ मतलब हाँ, जब जब अपन ट्रांजैक्शन करते हैं गूगल पे भी, तब देर इज अ ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी विच कम्स। तुम अगर किसी के साथ रिसीट शेयर करते हो तो भाई ऐसे बड़ी सी ऐसे वियर्ड लेटर्स का एक बड़ा सा स्ट्रिंग आता है, तो वो जो ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी ना वो यहाँ पे आएगी इसेंशियली। तो ये इसमें गफला नहीं कर सकता मैं।
ओके, थैंक्स।
कूल देन यार, अब 11 बजने को आए एंड ऑनेस्टली मेरे को सोना है, बट यार थैंक्स गाइस। एक तो बहुत मस्त क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं, आई एम रियली एंजॉयिंग दिस, लाइक सही में क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं, तो दैट्स गुड। एंड कूल देन we'll meet tomorrow। प्राइवेट की एंड सिग्नेचर और परमानेंट, प्राइवेट की हाँ परमानेंट होती है, सिग्नेचर विल चेंज बेस्ड ऑन मैसेज।
हेलो,
हाँ
वन लास्ट क्वेश्चन अथर्व।
हाँ बोल।
अरे एक्चुअली में 51% थियरी जो है उसके अंदर अगर माइनर्स 51% कोलैबोरेट हुए तो ही वो लोग टेक डाउन कर सकते क्या बिटकॉइन को? या फिर जैसे आपने बोला कि अगर दो जने भी आपस में कोलैबोरेट करके ट्रांजैक्शन कर रहे हैं, मतलब एक बोल रहा कि मैं पे करते जा रहा हूँ, सामने वाला रिसीव करते जा रहा, और वो दूसरों को ऐसा विजिबल नहीं है, तो वो कैसे 51% थियरी उसमें कैसे काम करेंगे?
तो 51% तभी चलता है जब ये जो वेरीफायर्स है, the number of verifiers, or as you can say the number of miners in a transaction are greater than 51%। तो बस मैं और तू लाइक भेजे जा रहे हैं, मतलब मैं ऐसे झूठे झूठे मैसेज डाले जा रहा हूँ, तो इट वोंट वर्क, बिकॉज इन दिस वर्ल्ड ऑफ 100,000 माइनर्स और वट एवर, अपन बस दो लोग हैं, तो वी आर आउट नंबर्ड। तो अपना जो लाइक ट्रांजैक्शन है, all of the other people won't accept it, and because of that we won't be successful in our attack। like अपने जो transactions हो गए, they'll just be flagged as invalid, और वो transaction pool से निकाल दिए जाएंगे, तो we won't be successful that way। what you are essentially doing is you are essentially doing a modified version of a DDoS attack। DDoS attack क्या होता है? distributed denial of service। तुम क्या करते हो, सारे सर्वर्स लेते हो और जोर से उस सर्वर को मारते हो। तो तुम सॉर्ट ऑफ वही कह रहे हो ना कि बहुत सारे ट्रांजैक्शंस क्रिएट करो झूठे वाले, और यू होप कि कोई वो ट्रांजैक्शंस उठा के एक्सेप्ट कर ले, राइट?
या राइट।
हाँ, तो वो होता नहीं है, बिकॉज ये जो सारे ट्रांजैक्शंस है वो कोई तो वेरीफायर, अज्यूमिंग कि 51% ऑफ द वेरीफायर्स आर गुड पीपल, वो इनवैलिड फ्लैग करते जाएंगे, एंड जब इनवैलिड फ्लैग होगा तब वो ट्रांजैक्शन पूल से हटा दिए जाएंगे ट्रांजैक्शंस, और कोई उठाएगा ही नहीं, तो कोई करेगा ही नहीं कुछ उसका।
अच्छा, और इनकेस जैसे अपन एक कंसिडर करता एग्जांपल, वो जिसमें बी के पास में जीरो बैलेंस बचता, वो दोनों 50-50 यूज कर लेता, तो अब उसके बाद में अगर वो कोई फॉल्स ट्रांजैक्शन और 50 पे करने का बोलता, तो सिस्टम खुद से इंटरप्रेट कर लेगा क्या कि इसके पास बैलेंस नहीं है और ये फॉल्स पेमेंट करने की कोशिश कर रहा, तो वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा? या फिर रिसीवर को पता करना पड़ेगा कि ये जो रिसीव मतलब कोई जो रिसीवर है वो देखेगा, चेक करेगा कि इसके पास बैलेंस है या नहीं, या फिर
नहीं,
सिस्टम अपने आप से इंटरप्रेट कर लेगा?
जो माइनर है, जो समझो मैं माइनर हूँ और तूने किसी को ये 50 रुपए भेज दिया, तो जो माइनर है वो तुम्हारा ट्रांजैक्शन देखेगा और वेरीफाई करेगा, तो दैट माइनर ऑल्सो हैज दैट लेजर की कॉपी, उसमें ही कैन सी ऑल ऑफ द ट्रांजैक्शंस विच आई हैव मेड, और वो देखेगा कि अच्छा ठीक है, पहले उसका बैलेंस 100 था, फिर 50 कट गया, अब उसके पास जीरो बैलेंस है, बट वो जीरो से ज्यादा बड़ी ट्रांजैक्शन करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली इनवैलिड फ्लैग करके फेंक देगा बाहर। हाउ कैन वी गेट एक्सेस टू रिकॉर्डिंग्स? तो जूम की बात ऐसी होती है कि आफ्टर द मीटिंग इज डन, इट गेट्स सेव लोकली, फिर मेरे को अपलोड करना पड़ेगा, तो इट टेक्स अ बिट ऑफ टाइम। प्रॉबली आज नहीं, मतलब आज तो पक्का नहीं मिलेंगे, कल भी मिलेंगे या नहीं पता नहीं। व्हाट आई विल डू इज मैं दोनों रिकॉर्डिंग्स आज के और कल के एक साथ मंडे या ट्यूसडे को अपलोड कर लूंगा, एंड दैट विल बी गुड, बिकॉज एक्चुअली क्या है, ये जो अभी का अपना सेशन हुआ है दैट इज 1.5 आवर्स, तो दैट विल बी अराउंड 2 GB, और वो अपलोड होने को बहुत टाइम लगेगा, तो वही। कूल देन गाइस, 11 बज गए, एंड अब जिसके भी
अथर्व एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन।
ओके,
हमने मैसेज में लिखा है ए पेड बी 50 रुपीज,
या सो
और फिर हमने मैसेज में फिर से 50 रुपीज, ओके, फिर हमने फिर से एंट्री की ए पेड बी ₹100, ऐसे ऐसे करके हमने बहुत सारे इंटरवल्स पे बहुत सारे मैसेज किए, और टोटल अमाउंट हमारा 1000 हो रहा है लगभग। और अगर हम एक ही साथ लिख देते हैं A paid B 1000 रुपीज, तो क्या वो वैलिड होगा, वेरीफाई करेगा?
वापस मेरे को समझाएं। सो बेसिकली तुमने 50 रुपए के 20 ट्रांजैक्शन किए जो 1000 हो गया, और एक ट्रांजैक्शन किया जो 1000 हो गया।
हाँ हाँ, तो हमने साइन में लिखा A paid B 1000, तो क्या वो वेरीफाई करेगा?
नहीं, बिकॉज तुम्हारा बैलेंस ही नहीं है ना 1000, तो मतलब सवाल ही नहीं आएगा। अगर समझो तुम्हारा बैलेंस लेट से 100 रुपए है, तो 50 के पहले 2 ट्रांजैक्शन वैलिडेट हो जाएंगे, तीसरा जब तुम करने जाओगे तब इट विल इनवैलिडेट, एंड सब्सिक्वेंटली जो भी बाकी सारे आएंगे। वेराज जो 1000 वाला है वो पहले ही शॉट में इनवैलिडेट हो जाएगा।
अच्छा, 50 का नहीं कर रहे हैं, कुछ और सारे अमाउंट्स का कर रहे हैं, लेकिन वो 1000 हो जा रहा है, कितने भी हो जा रहे हैं।
हाँ ओके, लाइक ऑनेस्टली मेरे को डाउट समझ में नहीं आ गया, रियली सॉरी।
अरे एक्चुअली मैं वो बोल रही है, अगर अपने पास 1000 बैलेंस है और अपन ने 50 के 20 ट्रांजेक्शन किए और वेरीफाई में जाके अगर चेक किया
हाँ
कि 1000 मतलब ए पेड बी 50 इधर ऐसे 20 बार ट्रांजेक्शन किए
हाँ
साइन
हाँ
में, और
हाँ।
फिर वेरीफाई में एक बार जाके लिख दिया ए पेड बी 1000, तो वो
वो
वेरीफाई
नहीं
करेगा
चलेगा,
क्या?
नहीं चलेगा, नहीं चलेगा, नहीं चलेगा। तुम्हें वो 50 के हर बार करने पड़ेंगे, बिकॉज हर मैसेज का सिग्नेचर डिफरेंट आएगा। तुम ए पेड भी अभी ये करोगे, और एज वी सेड देयर इज आल्सो अ ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी, राइट? तो 1 ए पेड भी ये आया, फिर दूसरा ए पेड भी ये आया, फिर तीसरा ये ए पेड भी ये आया। तुम समझ रहे हो? तो जब तुम वेरीफाई करोगे तब यू नीड एवरी सिंगल मैसेज सिग्नेचर टू वेरीफाई इट। यू कांट जस्ट वेरीफाई इट इन वन शॉट।
ग्रेट, ओके अथर्व।
Cool. तो तुम्हारा डाउट क्लियर हो गया ना?
हाँ हाँ, या थैंक्स।
Cool, then can we start a bit early tomorrow, 8 to 8:30? Actually बात ऐसी है, Zoom link जो है that is ये दो चीजें। एक तो ये जो प्रो जूम होता है, only one person can use it at a time, and जो श्रेयांश है, जो वो स्टॉक मार्केट ट्रेडिंग कोर्स लेता है, that course is from 8:30 to 9:30. So we can use it from 9:30 to 10:30 only. Secondly, there are some people who are in this course who are also in that course, तो उनका clash हो जाता है. So that's why we can't start it a bit early. Still, next week से we'll see what we can do. Like again, this is the first class, so ये थोड़ा trial सा class हो गया. I get what you're saying. 11 बज गए, बहुत रात हो गई है. कुछ कर सकते हैं तो definitely changes करेंगे. So yeah. With this I will close, guys. Message कर देना WhatsApp पे कोई question होता है तो, and we will meet tomorrow at the same time. So yeah, bye guys. Good night.